Hi everybody! Tonight I'm going to be making a skillet cornbread. I've made many cornbreads over my baking years. I've made a couple of them in the skillet. It's A, a great excuse to use a skillet. B, it looks super like Pioneer Woman, which, you know, I love. Anyway, so I have my skillet in the oven right now, preheating at 375. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to whip up the cornbread. Really easy. The basic cornbread recipe. So no mixer will be used for this recipe. Just my whisk and my arm. Sometimes I like to kick it old school and, you know, forego the modern appliances. So tonight's one of those nights. The first step, I have got 3 cups of cornmeal. The next thing I'm going to do is I've got 2 teaspoons of kosher salt. I've got 2 teaspoons of baking powder and 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda. So I'm just going to mix it up so that the baking soda, baking powder, and salt is all incorporated and mixed in with the cornmeal. And oh, for the record, I wanted to tell you guys as well, some recipes call for fancy, schmancy cornmeals. I personally like things that are easy to get. Purity. Can't get much more simple than that. You don't have to soak it or do anything weird with it. It's literally just like, and you're good to go. I also forgot to mention there's 2 teaspoons of sugar in there as well. Sometimes cornbread in my mind is like way too sweet. I want my cornbread, sorry, my cat's going crazy. I don't know what's happening. But I love a savory cornbread. Hint of sugar is okay, but too much sugar just makes it like a dessert. And I want this to be more of like a bread you can have with a chili or just as on its own. The next step, I have got 2.5 cups of buttermilk. So I'm going to crack 3 eggs into the buttermilk and then give it a mix. All right, just gonna mix that up with my fork. So I'm just gonna pour it into the bowl because I need to whisk the melted butter. And then in a thin stream, I'm just gonna add the butter. You can see, I don't know if you can see that, but it looks nice and thick. What we're gonna do is we're gonna whisk the wet ingredients into the cornmeal. Just whisk it enough just so that it comes together, so that there's no dry bits anymore, because you don't want to overwork a cornbread. You just want to mix until it's incorporated. I'm just going to add the whole thing. I love cornbread because it is so easy. It really is such an easy recipe. Kind of gets stuck in the whisk a little bit, the cornmeal, but that's all right. So I've got all of my wet and dry ingredients mixed together. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to amp up this cornbread. This is just the basic, simple cornbread recipe. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my skillet and I'm going to prepare it so that I can pour the batter in there. So I have got a small can of corn right here. I don't think I'm going to put the whole thing in. I think I might just put half a cup. I think it could use another half cup of corn. So I'm going to do that. So a couple of weeks ago, I pickled some jalapenos. I'm going to try cutting them up into some small pieces and sprinkling them on part of my cornbread. I'm not going to do the whole thing because these little mothers are very spicy, and if I don't love the jalapenos on the cornbread, then I don't want the entire batch to be kind of ruined or just too hot. I'm going to add a little bit of cheddar cheese, something I've never done ever, but I think it would be delicious and I want to make this into a meal. I'm actually going to try putting some prosciutto on part of it as well. This is a first for me. I'm kind of excited to see how it turns out. All right, so now what I have to do is I have to take my blazing hot skillet out of the oven. I'm going to put 1 tablespoon of melted butter in the skillet and kind of like roll it around to coat the skillet evenly so that the cornbread doesn't stick. Now I am going to pour the cornbread right into the skillet. Smooth it out a little bit. So next up is the fun part. I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of cheese all over the top. It's probably about half a cup. I love cheese, so I'm going to do the whole thing. And then just on one little part, I'm going to call it like one part of the pie, I'm just going to sprinkle this little bit of jalapeno just in about 1/4 of this. That's probably enough. And then the secret weapon ingredient that I'm going to put on there is this prosciutto. So I'm just going to lay it on top here and there. And then basically what that means is I could call this dinner. It's got everything you could possibly want in a cornbread. You know, some purists might think this is crazy, putting prosciutto on a cornbread, but you know, I think you could actually do some interesting things with it. You could do a mixture of Parmigiano Reggiano and maybe some Asiago or Fontina. This is going to be awesome. I'm very excited. It's probably enough prosciutto. I'm just going to eat the rest. It's going to go into the 375 oven for about 45 minutes. So I'm going to do that. And in the meantime, I'm going to eat some dinner. I am ready to take the skillet cornbread out of the oven. So let's do it. It was in there for maybe 5 minutes, less than I thought it would be. So better to have it a little underdone and have to give it a minute extra, because you can't undo when it's been in there a couple minutes too long. Oh my goodness gracious. This looks, if I don't say so myself, pretty freaking phenomenal. That is what I call a cornbread. Amped up, this looks amazing. The prosciutto is crispy. The cheddar cheese and the jalapenos have kind of just melted right into the cornbread. I'm gonna let this cool for about 15 minutes, and I'm going to crack into it and have myself a lovely little feast. I will be back to show you my reaction to the way this tastes. Okay, I am ready to cut into this cornbread. I'm gonna cut out a piece of the jalapeno first, because I really am curious to see how that's gonna taste. All right, nothing completes cornbread better than ice cold butter. It's the tiniest little bit crumbly. The way the cheese is melted into the top and the little bits of jalapeno are just perfect, like not too spicy. It just kind of gives it a little bit of oomph, which is delicious. And then the prosciutto is a salty and delicious surprise. So next time, I think what I'm gonna do is to use prosciutto and Parmesan. And do let me know if you try this recipe. Cheers.